What to play? What to play? Alright, let's see what's under the bun today. Mega Man, a classic franchise all but dead in today's gaming world. I absolutely love the Mega Man games, if you couldn't tell from my shirt and this wall behind me. I've been playing them for as long as I can remember, starting with Mega Man X on the SNES. And what's not to love? Fun and fast gameplay, incredible level and enemy design, awesome weapons and items, amazing soundtrack, perfect, responsive controls, a spin-off series that was better than the original, likable and interesting characters. It was a classic game that paved the way for many modern action platformers that we see today. Sadly, we haven't seen a Mega Man game in a really long time though. The last game came out like 6 years ago, and with Mega Man Legends 3 being cancelled, it's hard to see if there will ever be a Mega Man game in the future. But before I go into what I thought of Mighty No. 9, I'm going to talk about some other Mega Man clones first. Some are well known and others are less well known, but they're all pretty rad and they're all worth checking out. Also, for the record, I will not be talking about Shovel Knight. While some people consider Shovel Knight to be a Mega Man-like game, I personally don't. While it definitely borrows some elements from Mega Man and DuckTales, Metroid, Castlevania, and even Super Mario 3 with the overworld, I feel like the game is original in its own right, where I don't consider it a clone of any of them, but it is a masterpiece worth checking out. First on our list is Metagal. It was released in May of this year. Overall, this is about as clone-ish as you can get. The graphics, story, and gameplay are all very similar to the original Mega Man games. The game starts off as Dr. Ray is confronted by Commander Creeper. Creeper demands that Ray supply him with weapons, and Ray refuses and is kidnapped along with his android creations. Meta, the main character of the game, comes back to the lab to find that Ray and her sisters are missing. Ray contacts Meta through a computer terminal explaining that he and her sisters have been kidnapped, and instructs her to enter the terminal. There she becomes Metagal, and the adventure begins. When I say that the gameplay is very similar, I mean it's almost exact. You jump, you shoot, you kill enemies. The dash from Mega Man X makes an appearance, and of course you kill bosses, one of your 4 sisters, and you gain an ability to aid you on your journey. Even many of the enemy types are blatantly inspired by Mega Man, as you can see here. The stages are divided into 2 sets of 4. The first 4 are levels in which you play through, beat a boss, get a power. The second set of 4 levels are the endgame levels, similar to the Wily's Castle or Sigma's Fortress from the original games. Each of these end with a boss as well. The final level contains a Mega Man-style boss rush, in which you must fight all 4 of your sisters in succession, before your final showdown with Creeper. There are some variances to gameplay, however. First is the Buster itself. Unlike Mega Man, it doesn't shoot a single shot, and isn't chargeable. Instead, it fires a semi-auto shot. The powers you receive from bosses all use a shared energy meter that recharges when you stop firing, and can also be recharged via energy pickups. This means you don't really have to worry about ammo all that much. Interestingly, over the couple days I played the game updated and changed that mechanic. When I began playing, as you can see from earlier footage, the basic Buster also drained energy. However, when I got to the final level and began playing the next day, the game had changed that the basic shot didn't drain energy, but energy as a whole regained slower. So needless to say, the game is still being tweaked, even past launch. There are also 4 armor pickups that you can find as well, hidden in the first set of 4 levels. They aren't incredibly hard to find, but do require some thinking to find them. The music is catchy and reminiscent of Mega Man. However, there are only 3 or 4 songs throughout the whole game. The boss theme is the same through every level, like it was in the classic Mega Man. However, the music through each stage is actually the same song, but remixed to fit the tone of that level. Regardless, it's still a pretty catchy song. The game is fairly difficult as well. I have played and beaten most of the Mega Man games. I play them a lot, so it's fair to say I'm decent at them. I still got stuck a few times in my playthrough of Metagal, and didn't score more than an E ranking on any of the levels on my first playthrough, which is pretty bad. Still, nothing except for the final boss really gave me any hang-ups. It took me about 4 hours to complete the game, and 2 of them were spent on the final boss alone. That's pretty embarrassing. I spent just as much time on the final boss as I spent on the entire rest of the game. So if you're better at figuring him out than I was, you could probably finish the game at around 2 hours. Which isn't horrible considering the original Mega Man games could be pretty short as well, and Metagal only costs $4. For a game that is a faithful homage to the classic Mega Man and is only $4, I recommend checking it out if you need that fix. 20XX probably has the most original ideas of all the games in this video. It's actually a Mega Man game with roguelike elements, meaning that if you die once, you need to start all over and the levels are procedurally generated. I'm actually not a big fan of roguelikes because I hate having to start over every time I die and prefer to actually get the game finished, but this one is actually pretty fun. Probably the best part of this one is that it has 2-player co-op. Each player picks either Nina, the Mega Man X-type character, or Ace, the Zero-type character. Both play how either X or Zero would in a Mega Man X game. Throughout the game, you can either pick up or purchase with in-game currency items which add buffs and nerfs to your character. Things like movement speed, attack power, special power, health, and shield can all be upgraded. There are also several bosses to kill and get the powers of. However, you can only hold 4 powers at a time, each binding to a specific button. So you have to think strategically over which powers you want and which bosses are weak to which power. Like with Metagal, all the levels are broken up into themes, corresponding with the type of boss you will encounter. Things like ice, fire, sky, and forest. The game is also really difficult, and I haven't been able to get through the whole thing yet, because again, dying once means you have to start all over, but if you somehow find the game to be too easy, you can add difficulty modifiers as well. I personally like adding increased character speed, increased enemy speed, and fatal spikes because it makes it feel even more like a Mega Man X game. I also love the music in this game. While it's still in early development, the creator is pretty good with keeping updates coming and the community up to date with what's going on with development. Azure Striker Gunvolt is probably one that a lot of you have heard of. It's decently well known, especially among Mega Man fans. It's made by Intai Creates, the same company behind Mega Man Zero, the ZX series, Mega Man 9 and 10, and Mighty No. 9, amongst many other games. Azure Striker Gunvolt follows Gunvolt, an adept capable of utilizing electricity as a weapon. Adepts are essentially beings with superpowers. He fights the evil Sumeragi Group, a corporation that, while credited with contributing to world peace, has been kidnapping and experimenting on adepts. The company turned their focus to an idol pop star named Lumen. Gunvolt is tasked with killing her by his terrorist group Quill. Upon reaching her, it is revealed that Lumen is actually a young girl named Jewel, who is an adept. Lumen is the physical manifestation of Jewel's abilities. Gunvolt refuses to kill her and quits Quill, initiating the start of the game. The rest of the game plays out as contracts in which Gunvolt goes to a level, kills a boss, gets an electric power, and goes on to uncover the truth behind Quill, the Sumeragi Group, Jewel, and Lumen. The game also consists of some RPG elements, such as the option to interact with NPCs like Jewel and Lumen, as well as item and weapon equip management. The overall feel of the game is similar to that of the Zero series. Gunvolt is fast-paced, with lots of enemies on the screen at once. The music is good, giving a mix of upbeat electronic, MIDI metal, and even idle pop-style songs throughout the game. There are also two endings, one for beating the game normally, and a second if you happen to find all the gems hidden throughout the levels. The game is out on 3DS and PC via Steam. I own it on both, and I honestly prefer the 3DS version because that's where I played it first. There are some differences. I believe that it runs better on the 3DS overall, as I've experienced some skips and stutters on the PC version, which you may notice in this video. The PC version has some additional challenge modes, however, and language options, including one to give the game Japanese voiceovers if you're a weeb like me. Additionally, the Japanese option adds a dialogue that occurs throughout the game while playing levels. This makes the screen very cluttered and distracting, as seen here. I didn't find the game overly difficult, but it is a lot of fun, and the bosses are all really cool and unique. I recommend checking it out. There's also a sequel to Azure Striker Gunvolt coming out later to 3DS this year, so keep an eye out for that if that looks interesting to you. There isn't much to say about Mighty Gunvolt in terms of gameplay. It's an 8-bit side-scrolling action platformer. The story is pretty fucking weird too. The Sumeragi group from Azure Striker is looking for the next pop idol and is kidnapping all the girls from various high schools. As a result, no new couples can form and love is all but dead. Gunvolt from Azure Striker, Beck from Mighty No. 9, and Ikoro from Galgun join together to save the day. If you don't know what Galgun is, here's part of the trailer.
インティクリエイツ
Yeah, you shoot chicks with an orgasm gun. Maybe we'll play it on a future episode. Anyway, this game is basically an 8-bit crossover game between Azure Striker Gunvolt, Mighty No. 9, and Galgun, featuring levels and bosses from the 3 games. Gunvolt has the ability to double jump as well as use a chain lightning weapon. Beck shoots lemons like Mega Man did, but also has the ability to slide and dash. Ikoro shoots arrows and can fly momentarily. By charging her arrows, she can also hit enemies with a heart that will get them to follow her and fight alongside her until they are destroyed. Overall, it's a basic game, but fun. Now for the game we've all been waiting for. You know all about this one. The promised return, the incredibly successful Kickstarter, the controversy surrounding it and the creative staff, the controversy of the public forums, the many delays, and of course all of the launch issues. Dennis actually wrote an article about some of the launch issues for Gameskinny. There's a link for the description below if you want to read what he has to say. Despite all the up and downs, how did this game turn out? If you're on any form of social media and follow any gaming news websites, it's easy to see that the game is getting shredded by critics and fans alike. But how bad is it really? Here's what I think. I really don't think it's that bad. In fact, I like it. I know, holy shit, right? Don't get me wrong, I completely understand the anger, frustration, and criticism that this game is receiving. But I was not a backer, and though I could imagine how angry I would be if I was, I wasn't. And the game really isn't horrible. There are some obvious similarities between Mega Man and Mighty No. 9. They are both action platformers in which a blue robot fights 8 bosses and gets their abilities and saves the day. Both have puns with their robot partner as well. Mega Man was rock and roll, and Mighty No. 9 has beck and call. Both had good professors and bad professors. The story of Mighty No. 9 is simple. Robots that were good and helpful to humans have suddenly gone berserk and are attacking people and are ravaging cities. It is up to Beck to find out what is causing good robots to go bad and stop the current ones from destroying whatever is in their path. Like I said, I liked the game, but before we can get into what I like, let's talk about the bad, because there is a lot of it. I think this clip speaks for itself.
It is the present year. Breakthroughs in robotic technology have ushered in a new era of peace and prosperity. Violence is confined to the Battle Coliseum, where robot combatants face off in spectacular duels. Today, The Coliseum walls once again echo with the shouts and cheers of excited fans. When, suddenly...
The voice acting is rough, to put it lightly. A couple of the characters were voiced out well. For example, Steve Bloom voices Countershade. You recognize this voice as the man who played Amon from The Legend of Korra, Wolverine in many of the cartoons, and Toto from Code Geass.
Every single one of those meat sticks fled at the first sign of trouble. Pathetic.
But the voice acting is very rough. That being said, it is nowhere near the level of grating and horrible as, say, Mega Man 8, X4, or X7.
No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
Also, much of the acting does seem to get a little better by the end of the game, or at the very least you get used to it and accept it. The graphics are obviously dated. Some people have been saying PS2 era, but I don't think they're that bad. Maybe late Dreamcast era, definitely early to mid PS3 360 era. They're cartoony and it works, but for a game with a $4 million budget, it sucks. Like, characters don't even have speaking animation sucks. It just reeks of laziness. As for the gameplay, I was one of the suckers that got the game for Wii U. If you read Dennis's article, you can see that there were a plethora of performance issues across all platforms, but the Wii U got hit the hardest. I did not experience any crashes, hard or soft, and obviously my Wii U did not brick, though I did start playing after the game was patched. I did experience some frame rate issues and skips while playing. This made platforming very difficult in some instances, and contributed to some very frustrating and unfortunate deaths. This brings me to the feel of the game as a whole. To me, the platforming felt off, or at least required some time to get used to. And again, I am someone who has played a lot of Mega Man games. This isn't new to me. Yet I found myself dying a lot. I don't know how many times I actually walked off a ledge thinking that I was just going to move up a little bit and center myself for a jump. It's extra irritating due to long load times, which can take anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds to respawn. Enemy placement is weird in some instances as well. With Mega Man, I always felt that if I died, it was my fault, with some exceptions, which I will bring up later. But with Mighty No. 9, I always found myself getting mad at the weird level design and enemy placement. There are many parts I feel like I got past with pure luck. To put it bluntly, this game goes from, this is too easy, to, I want to throw this fucking controller through a wall, with no in between. If you want another example of how the platforming feels, compare it to the GBA version of Mega Man and Bass, or even Mega Man X5 and X6. Yeah, I'm looking at you, X6 Sigma's Fortress.
Pyro! Finally!
You. Why you not burn? Why you not burn?
Uh-oh.
Burn! Pyro crash, and you burn!
Bosses are difficult as well, requiring you to really get their pattern down. Each boss is also weak to a power from another boss. Unlike Mega Man, however, you don't kill the Robot Masters, or the Mighty Numbers as they're called in this game. You don't need to figure out who is weak to what on your own either. Once you get a power, there will be an advice menu below the level select. Clicking on that will open a dialogue from the Mighty Number that gives you the weakness power to the level that you are about to begin. That Mighty Number will appear in that level and aid you through a platforming segment and give you a tip. This makes the rock, paper, scissors nature of the game a little easier, but also provides some character development after you defeat the proper boss. And I actually like the Mighty Numbers. They each have their own unique personality, which I thought added to my experience. I especially liked Aviator, Mighty No. 6, Countershade, Mighty No. 8, and Cryosphere, Mighty No. 2, as I found them to be fun characters.
Cryo!
You just refuse to chill out, don't you, Runt? Well, I'm sure it's nothing a little cold shower won't cure.
This is where I think Mighty No. 9 really shines. It is a fun game that captures the spirit of Mega Man. The game is challenging and frustrating, but overcoming those frustrations feels rewarding. You want to keep playing. The new dash mechanic adds some variation to the game, encouraging speed and pushing you to rack up a higher combo than before. It feels like a Mega Man game. Being fun is important, and I certainly enjoyed it. No, it didn't reinvent the wheel, and yes, it had a bunch of issues, but for a $20 to $30 indie game, it is pretty good. It is far from perfect, and it's not the Mega Man return that many people wanted to see, but with some polish, I feel like Intai could create something very great. The DLC is pretty good as well. The Raid DLC gives an extra level and boss to play as Mighty No. 9 and fight against a new mysterious enemy, Ray. You also can play as Ray, where you have to play through the original levels from her perspective. It's obvious they are setting her up to be a Zero or base type character.
So this is Sanda Technologies. Noise! A familiar sound. There's something about the screams. Almost beautiful. I have no stake in this human crisis, but it should make for an excellent hunting ground.
The Retro DLC was a little disappointing, however. You can only use the Retro skin in the Maniac mode of the game. This is the hardest difficulty that you get after beating the game. It adds one-hit deaths. Yeah, it's going to be really tough to get through that. There's also a level where you can play as Call, which I also found kind of disappointing, simply because her attack is slow and not that powerful, and it's more of a short, almost stealth kind of encounter. She just feels very sluggish and not powerful compared to how Beck was. There's a nice addition where you can switch the music to 8-bit in any mode of the game, however, which was a nice touch. Two levels in particular are actually pretty cool. The first is Countershade's level. Countershade is a sniper. He shoots at you from across the map. In Countershade's level, you have to follow his bullets from different sides of the map until you finally reach him to engage in battle. It's pretty cool because it adds some variation to the go right to continue standard that was given to us by the old platforming games on the NES. The second level that's really cool is Beck's endgame level at the factory. In order to get to this level, you have to beat all of the other mighty numbers. That means that all of the mighty numbers are here on this map to help you out. It's pretty cool to see all of the bosses that you have defeated kind of all come together at the end and help you out to meet a common goal. It kind of brings the whole story together.
Ah, young one, not to worry. Nothing here my blades can't handle.
We've got this area under control. Go help Cryo's team instead.
Yes, please! I'm ice creaming these spots, but there's so many of them!
Maybe if we spent more time fighting and less underlaying puns.
What? Just remember your tough, Shady! I'm 6 numbers older than you!
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Nice clear.
Where the big problem of this game comes in with the lies to the backers, and the unacceptable presentation for a $4 million budget, and the lack of care and communication certain members of the team seem to have towards responding to questions and keeping fans up to date. Will there be another Mighty No. 9? Who knows? Will the cartoon be any good? Who knows? Inafune already has announced a new game, Red Ash, which is supposed to be a spiritual successor to the Mega Man Legends games. Hopefully it is good, and it restores some hope and support from fans who were disappointed with Mighty No. 9. Until then, Red Ash, Mighty No. 9, and the other games I mentioned in this video may be the closest things we get to a new official Mega Man anything. Just as an aside, if you want Mega Man in any capacity, it's worth checking out the Namco Cross Capcom and Project Cross Zone games. Mega Man Volnut, Roll Casket, Tronbon, X, Zero, Sigma, Vile all make appearances in that game. Also, a fan-made Mega Man Legends 3 is in the works. You probably won't see anything from that for a while, but it's worth mentioning and worth keeping an eye on. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this most recent episode of Under the Bun. Please leave a comment about how we can improve for the future. Also, if you've noticed, Dennis wasn't in this episode. He didn't really have much to say about Mega Man or the other games that we played, but he has something big coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks guys.